Give you time to do that, and certainly under public comment, number 12, we'll have time for that at that point also. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Cedar,
Here.
Councilmember Gottler,
Here.
Councilmember Kufa is absent, Councilmember Laporte,
Here.
Councilmember Paul,
Here.
Councilmember Bowles,
Here.
Councilmember Westrick,
Here.
Make a motion to excuse Councilmember Cuffa.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda number 4A, City Council minutes of April 7th, 2025, regular meeting recommendation approve. Excuse me. And B is the City Council Planning ZBA minutes of April 16th, 2025, joint meeting recommendation receive.
Motion to approve A and B.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll open this public meeting on the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Project Plan. Bishop.
Did it go in standby mode?
Yep,
So,
we got it now.
Okay.
There we go.
while Dan's getting things set up, I'll introduce myself. My name's Josh Redner. I'm from Fishbeck. This is Dan Schechter, also from Fishbeck. We're here tonight to talk about potential improvements to the clean water plant in town here. You're familiar with the improvements that are ongoing on the water system. This kind of mirrors that on the wastewater side. We are seeking funding through the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Program. This public hearing is a step in that application for funding. So we'll spend a little time tonight kind of talking about the need for the project and kind of the background. But before I get into all those fun details, I'll apologize that this won't be the most exciting presentation you've ever heard. It is a requirement for the funding source, so we wanted to obviously complete this step and keep everybody in the public informed of the potential improvements and the impact on the community. So with that, I'll jump in here. This meeting, there is a certain amount of content I have to cover that is required to be covered by the funding source. The Clean Water State Revolving Program kind of dictates this all to us. So we advertised for this public hearing on April 4th. That was on the city's website, and we solicited comments from the public. During this meeting, we have to provide a description of the need for the project, the alternatives we considered for improvements, discussion of the financing and the impact on user costs, and also discuss the anticipated social and economic or environmental impacts from the project and the mitigation efforts that we intend to take to help mitigate those concerns. All right, so to kind of go through what we want to talk about tonight, I'm going to give just a brief description of the SRF program, a background on the program, kind of talk about the treatment plant, which you can see in the graphic here, talk about the collection system needs and the wastewater plant needs, discuss the proposed project and the improvements we're looking at making, talk briefly about the alternatives that were considered, and then go into a little bit more detail on what the SRF program terms the principal alternative or the selected alternative. Talk about the monetary evaluation for that selected alternative, principal alternative, and then go through those social and environmental impacts. All right, so the SRF program, like I mentioned, was created in conjunction with the Clean Water Act. This was in about 1987 that this program was developed. It's administered through EGLE, EQ, DNR, whoever you want to call them, EGLE today. And the program is intended to address water quality issues in the communities. The program provides low interest funding and potentially some grant funding for studies and improvements to drinking water and wastewater systems. All right, so here's that graphic of the existing wastewater plant again. I will go into a little bit of technical detail here, but jump in with questions if they come up. The plant receives influent from the collection system, and that influent flow is either pumped directly into the treatment facility or into I don't think you can see my cursor, but the two largest round tanks kind of on the upper right side of the screen there, those are the wet weather storage tanks. The red box in the lower left is the headworks building. So inside there, we have screening and grit removal. That's intended to take out larger inorganic matter, trash, basically from the wastewater stream. And then the next red box to the right of that is the primary clarifiers. Those are intended, again, to remove larger organic materials prior to biological treatment, which is accomplished in the trickling filters. That's the red box on the lower portion of the screen. Solids off of the secondary treatment system, those trickling filters are collected in the secondary clarifiers, which are not in a box, but right next to the primary clarifiers. And then solids from those two tanks are pumped into the anaerobic digestion system, which is the red box in the upper portion of the screen. Digested solids are stored in the storage tank just to the south of that anaerobic digester facility prior to being liquid land applied. Here's an overview of the collection system. City of St. Clair and as well as a portion of the St. Clair Township are served by the collection system from the wastewater plant. Sewers range in size from 8-inch to 42-inch, and there's about 38 miles of sanitary sewer throughout the system. All right, so to get into kind of the need for the project, there have been a number of sanitary sewer overflows from the collection system. There's the two wet weather storage tanks, but they sometimes have trouble utilizing those effectively, and so as a result, there's been some overflows. There are safety and operational concerns throughout the plant. A couple that I'd just like to highlight include some HVAC and electrical equipment in the headworks building presents a safety concern. That environment can have an explosive atmosphere, and some of that equipment that's in those facilities isn't rated for that. And then also the trickling filters are, they have some rust through the existing tanks that present some safety concerns. The domes on those are in pretty poor condition at this point, to no fault of the city or to the operators. It's just they're approaching the end of their useful life and are showing. So we're looking to address those concerns. We'll get into the cost more, but just because that's the number everybody cares about, we like to try and put it toward the front of the presentation. Our total estimated opinion probable cost at this kind of early stage is $5.72 million. All right. So I've talked through this a little bit in general, but those the influent pumping and wet weather detention tanks aren't fully utilized right now. We want to try and correct that with some monitoring control in the collection system. The preliminary treatment, that's the headworks with screening and grit removal. We want to address those aging assets that are in there, the electrical and HVAC components, as well as there's a tank that is designed to remove grit, sand, gravel from the waste stream, and there's some failed equipment on there that we'd like to replace. It's the paddle drive on the collector there. The primary treatment, the chain and flight collectors, as well as their gear drives, are aging, and we would like to rehab those or replace, kind of depending on which part you're talking about. In the secondary treatment, we talked about the structural concerns with the trickling filters, which you see here. We're looking at replacing those. And then solids handling, there are some safety concerns there as well with, through the digestion process, you generate methane gas, and we flare that off at the plant currently. That flare is too close to the building and presents a safety hazard by current standards. And there are also a number of valves and equipment in that process that are no longer operable, which is more of an operations concern than a safety concern. On the chem feed side, there is a bulk storage tank outside that transfers chemical to an indoor day storage tank that doesn't have any level control on it. We just want to put some safety improvements there for automatic shut off in case something were to go wrong. We don't want to see an overflow of chemical or a spill in the basement of the plant here. In the collection system, the pump stations currently don't have backup power, so during wet weather events, often there's power outages. operators have to go around and try and deal with that the best they can. Often that's bypass pumping in certain instances. So we're looking to address that by providing some backup power options, and also are looking to make some improvements to the collection system. There are certain sections of sewer, it's a little hard to tell from this graphic, but the red lines on there are sewer that were inspected rather recently and either determined to be in poor structural condition or have high levels of I&I, inflow and infiltration. All right, so for the pumping system, Dan's going to go through kind of some of the details and alternatives we looked at in a little more detail here. But I'm going to step aside and let him take over.
Thanks, Josh. There's a somewhat prescriptive nature that the state requires for us to look at these alternatives, and it's to look at 3 different alternatives for each recommendation that we have. The first one is a no-action alternative. The second one is optimize existing facilities, so improvements, selective rehab. And then the third one is what they call a construction alternative, which is generally completely replace the item or process that we're talking about. So when we're talking about the influent pumping and wet weather detention tanks, the no-action alternative would not address the concerns that we have about being able to fully utilize that wet weather storage. That alternative 2 for optimize is what we're looking at to improve the monitoring and control, to optimize the use. And then that third option of replacing the wet weather storage is really overkill, not cost effective, and not the selected process. So we'll go through each of these alternatives, bear with me, and most of them will end up with this optimized. There's only one where we're completely constructing an alternative. The preliminary treatment, where we're replacing the HVAC equipment, doors, adding explosion-proof electrical grit and paddle drive, is the optimize. No action would not address those safety concerns, so that is not a good option for us. And construction of new headworks is not necessary, would be cost prohibitive. The primary treatment, this is where we're looking at repairing and replacing some of the existing chain and flight equipment and clarifier drives to maintain operation. We don't need to fully replace those tanks. So again, that is the optimize existing facilities. We feel like the no action would not address the concerns that we have at the primary clarifiers. This is the one area where we are recommending a full construction alternative. The trickling filters are those two tall towers, the bolted steel tanks that you see at the wastewater plant. They have been harder to maintain as corrosion and age. The no-action alternative is not effective. It is possible to do a rehab that would extend the life, but that doesn't address all the concerns. We really feel like the most effective way to deal with those trickling filters is to completely replace the tanks, media, and distribution equipment, pumps, blowers, and that would provide both improved treatment and be the best at extending the life of that secondary treatment. For solids handling, again, we're looking at selected areas that would be replaced, some of the piping and valves, the gas flare, some of the sludge piping valves, and the boiler and heat exchanger. There are systems that do need replacement, so that no action isn't adequate, but the construction alternative is probably more excessive than is needed at the plant at this time. Chemical feed system, the recommendations that we have there are not large and will be very effective in preventing overfilling. So again, that's optimizing the existing facilities to improve the ferric chloride feed system and provide level monitors. Pump station backup power. There is a no-action alternative for some of the pump stations, and it's certainly possible that as we look at it, that some of the pump stations may not need backup power if they're reliable, but others will need power receptacles and transfer switches, and what we are envisioning right now is probably a couple of portable generators that would be able to move to pump stations as they need it. The construction alternative to put in generators at each and every one of the pump stations is probably not necessary and would be cost prohibitive. So we're looking at a portable option with receptacles so that you could rapidly provide backup power. And then in terms of sewer improvements, we're looking at those areas that have the poor PACP ratings and looking at identifying selected sewer segments to line, including manholes and sewer segments. Construction of new sewers is not something that we would recommend at this time, but certainly something that would be considered if you saw growth in an area or need for additional capacity. Using all of those alternatives, we've come up with a monetary evaluation, and I apologize for this slide being so busy. This is a requirement that we follow, that the state dictates as part of the Clean Water SRF program, where we compute the annual O&M cost savings. Well, our first line is the capital cost, and we have each of the 6 projects at the wastewater treatment plant shown there. We envisioned a modest O&M cost savings for each of these. And then we also calculate the present worth of a 20-year O&M cost savings and calculate that out at the bottom. A better number, though, for this body to look at is probably, and these are for the 2 collection system examples, the pump station backup power and the sewer improvements. Probably a more appropriate number for this body to look at is the capital cost summary, which is what it would cost for construction of each of these. So we have an estimate for each of these options and a total, which is $5.72 million, the most costly being the replacement of the trickling filters at $2.3 million.
Daniel,
Yes.
are these just hard costs for construction? This has nothing to do with construction administration, inspection, or is design and engineering, is that all in cost that is built in per item?
I believe these do include a construction number, a construction admin number. I'd have to confirm that.
They do.
Is it spread evenly at total amount of cost per item, 10%, 12%, 13%? Is it
Yes.
an even spread?
It's an even spread, yes.
So the state doesn't like to see contingency or engineering costs broken out. They want cost by line item included in here. So we incorporate those contingency and design and construction engineering costs into each line item here.
Okay, thank you.
And then in terms of how this calculates out to an annual cost, the guidance right now through the state is to look at the SRF as a 3% low-interest loan on a 20-year basis. That means an annual debt payment of about $380,000 a year on a $5.72 million capital plan. Looking at your flow numbers, residential use is estimated for 2025 at about 52% of the flow. So if we take that residential number and divide it by the number of active meters in the city, we come up with an anticipated user cost impact of about $17.30 per quarter, or about $69.17 per year.
That's residential only?
That's residential only.
Okay.
But there would be a similar increase for,
The 2,837 meters,
yes.
is that just within the city itself? Not, that doesn't include any township use?
I believe that is just the city itself.
The township, Councilman Gottler, the township is, we have an active sewer agreement with them. And so any improvements, capital expenses that would improve their system as well, they're obligated roughly around 26.5% of total cost.
So that could likely fall 26% from that estimate if, once that's figured in?
It's roughly $1.5 million, which would then reduce the cost, which then would reduce those quarterly and yearly numbers.
So that's probably a pretty high number.
That's the highest and most conservative number.
Okay.
What's on the screen.
Thanks.
As part of this analysis, we have to look at the social, environmental, and public health impacts of these construction projects. In terms of social impacts, there would be short-term construction-related impacts, including to traffic for those in the collection system and the ones near the plant. And how would those be mitigated? We would provide detour routes, maintain one lane open, write those requirements into the construction contract. Another social impact would be, of course, the user costs. A possible mitigation would be existing debt retirement, offsetting new debt payment. Another social impact, this would be a positive one, would be temporary construction jobs related to the job. In terms of environmental impacts, the positive impacts would be reducing the risk of sanitary sewer overflows, improving the effluent water quality and the reliability thereof, improved water quality in the St. Clair River, positive impact to operations and overall sewer system reliability. We would adhere and write requirements in contracts to adhere to local, state, and federal regulations for any work within floodplains. And we'd have soil erosion and sediment control measures for construction. We did not see any impact to threatened or endangered species as part of these projects. The next steps following this public meeting would be to adopt a resolution, have a resolution adopting a final project plan and designating an authorized project representative. I think this is on your agenda for the meeting today. And then we would hear any comments and address any of those and submit a final project plan to the state by May 1st. Following that, we would have discussions with Eagle if the project is determined to be within the fundable range of the projects that other communities are submitting, and then develop a milestone schedule with the Eagle project manager. The dates that tentative dates that we're looking at right now for final design would be June of 2025 to about January of 2026, with Part 1, 2, and 3 applications to be submitted to the state for financial review, SRF program requirements, and then bidding the project. Construction, we would envision taking place between about May 2026 and April 2028. And the way the state process works is their selection will come out in about October of this year. So that's when we would have a sense of We might have an idea before then, whether it's in the fundable range, but that's when the official word would come out, is October or November of 2025.
One sec.
Sure.
Dan kind of mentioned the next steps already. I did want to point out that we are not asking you to spend $5.7 million tonight in any way. We're really just asking if we can keep moving forward on this funding application. So what the resolution in front of you tonight will be is to allow us to submit a final project plan to the state, understand if this funding is available. We'll be here a few more times if we are moving forward with design and construction of this to talk about the scope and everything. This is not a request to spend any money tonight. It's just a request to continue with the application process. So I do appreciate everyone's time. Thank you, audience members, for listening. If there are questions, we can field those before closing the public comment period.
I have a question. You mentioned that we're at 52% of our flow. Is that, just so I know the terminology here, is that the capacity of our sewer system that we're at, or is that just the pipes? Just tell me where that number comes from or what it means.
The residential component within the city limits is 52% of the capacity of the wastewater plant.
Okay.
Currently, on an annual average basis, the wastewater plant receives about 1.1 million gallons per day. It's rated for 1.4 million gallons per day. Where that number is a little bit deceiving is during wet weather events, flow can be much, much higher than that, and that's why we're seeing some overflows from the collection system.
So we'll gain no capacity from this project, but we'll gain efficiency, essentially?
There'll be some capacity gain associated with it. I can't give you like a gallons number off the top of my head, but the biggest advantage would be that we would size the trickling filters larger than they are today, so you can handle more flow and load through the plant.
Gotcha.
On a peak flow basis, you can treat about 4.2 million gallons currently through the existing plant. That's not necessarily something you want to sustain day in and day out, but if you have a wet weather day, you can push that for a little bit.
Gotcha. Do we have a number where the annual O&M savings is located? I saw there was an appendix that was listed.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what that number might be.
Back up a little bit here. We kind of just estimate that, and some of this is reducing like emergency call-outs for equipment that's failing, things like that. But the second row in this chart is the annual O&M cost savings by unit process improvement.
Can you go over one more slide?
Yeah.
36,000.
We wouldn't anticipate, major O&M savings associated with this. Largely, it's, equipment replacement for failing things. So, there are some emergency call-outs associated with that today. That's a rough number, but we have to do our best to estimate it.
Thank you.
Josh, when we come up to the estimated construction costs and the various costs that add up to that slide right there, is there an index that's used to determine construction on those? Or is there a reference point from is it just previous projects and taking averages, or is there a national index based on, influent pumping and preliminary treatment and things like that?
Yeah, yes to all of the questions. So The way we go about cost estimating, we have a construction management group at Fishbeck. We work with them on some of our cost estimating. They understand current unit prices for things like excavation, sewer lining, concrete costs, things like that. During this stage, we often go out for equipment quotes. So for things like pumps or that grit paddle drive or specific pieces of equipment, we'll seek quotes for that early on. And then we do use Engineering News Report, ENR, has cost indices for construction costs. They're more backward looking than forward looking. I wish I had that crystal ball that tells us what's going to be in the future, and we do include a fair amount of contingency on this to try and be conservative in that effort. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with steel prices, other commodity prices that could largely impact this, and so we do our best to kind of build in foreseeable costs as best we can.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
Take my pencil. So we went through this, I believe, similar with the water treatment plant when we put it in for the loan, and then
Correct.
we were denied one time, and then somebody dropped out, and we moved up, and so you guys have been through this a little bit with us, and I'm thinking you have some expertise. Realistically, what are our chances with this loan when we look at our scoring?
Good question. It's a competitive program, and I think, there are some things that, from a scoring perspective, work in our favor. Not that they're good things to have, but the sanitary sewer overflows are something that the state really likes to address through this program. That should add points to the scoring for this. On the downside, we went through this on the drinking water side as well. This is not an overburdened community by the state's definition. So from a financial needs standpoint, we don't score as many points there. So I think you'll be competitive. I think it will largely, kind of like with the water side, depend on who else is asking for money and kind of what the demand is out there. If you ask me what our chances were 2 years ago, and I think I might have said this at the time, but not good. Everybody was working through this program at that time because of the grant dollars that were available at that time. The grant money is largely gone away. There's still some, not nearly what it was a few years ago. But there are fewer applications today than there were 2 years ago, kind of as a result of that. So to apply for the lower interest loans today is less competitive than it was to apply for those grant dollars a few years ago. And the chances a few years ago really weren't good. You had to be overburdened, have major treatment issues, have sanitary sewer overflows, or all the above to get funded.
Before I go to my second question, I understand what you're saying about overburden, but monetarily maybe not overburdened, but as far as capacity and outflow, we're overburdened.
Yeah, yes, capacity-wise, yes.
But now that's my second question. Correct me if I heard you wrong, but we process about 1.1 million per day now.
Correct.
But did I hear you say that maximally we could process 4.2 at a day if we had to?
Yeah, that's correct.
So let me
From
ask
like
you
a
this.
hydraulic standpoint, that's correct.
Okay, so, and I want this project. I mean, I understand we need upgrades, but the trickling filters, you said you're going to increase the size of those so that we can process more waste.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to me why, if we can handle 1.1, but we could handle 4, but we still have to increase the size of those trickling filters.
The 4.2 million gallon number is really wet weather related. So from a loading perspective, we really can't handle 4.2 million gallons through the plant of your normal wastewater. When it's dilute with a lot of rainwater, hydraulically we can push that through the plant, but we can't provide adequate treatment for that higher strength waste during dry weather events currently. So that's why we looked up size
Yeah,
those.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, fellas.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job with the slides.
We're pretty excited.
All right. We'll close that public meeting. We'll go to number 6. Proclamation designating April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day. I have before me a Arbor Day proclamation, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the City of St. Clair has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 25 years, and desires to continue to be recognized. Therefore, I, Bill Cedar Jr., by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of St. Clair, do hereby proclaim April 25, 2025 as the Arbor Day in the City of St. Clair. I urge all citizens to support their efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our community forestry. And further, I will urge certain citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. And I believe when we get the reports, Clerk Sturdy will have an announcement about some free trees. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I guess we'll go to number 7. Excuse me, Resolution 25-6. CRWSRF wastewater treatment plant system improvements final project plan. Bishop, do you want to say a couple words there?
This is a resolution adopting a clean water state revolving loan fund, and it's the final planning document that would be submitted, and it is a part of the state process that before we submit that a resolution by this board is adopted to continue forward. As you heard the comments tonight from Fishbeck, talking about the needs of our wastewater treatment plant, the benefits that it would increase. This resolution essentially allows for them to continue on with the process and to put the city of St. Clair in the running for project support from the state revolving loan fund.
Which is more affordable money, right?
Yes, current interest rates at 3%. If we went to open market, we couldn't touch 3%.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
All right, motion made, support, questions. All right, call the roll, please.
Westrick?
Yes.
Cutler?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Bulls?
Yes.
Cedar?
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, thank you. Josh, Dan, thank you. Number 8, report administration, Mr. Bishop.
3 things I'd like to talk about. We'll kind of go in chronological order here. Report on Cox Road. The bidding by the state is going to be released on May 1st. May 1st, you give it about a month worth of bidding. Contractor will be named via the MDOT, and then we'll be notified in June. What I have pressed for is the amount of time it would take for an actual bid letting, name of the contractor, and construction to begin. The emphasis that we have made to everybody is that it's done before school starts. And you would not imagine the amount of calls I've received already for those folks planning graduation parties that live on Cox Road and making sure it's not done in May. So if anybody out there listening, the bid letting's in May, and so they can steer clear of anything for Memorial Day weekend and those early graduation parties. Moving on, 6th Street reconstruction. The contractor has beginning to mobilize and has a calendar date of May 12th. Will be the date of the construction for North 6th Street. In the same vein as road construction, the mill and fill projects for 10th, Fort Hugo, and 15th are scheduled to occur on May 15th. All things being considered, they'll be working through May, June, and July, avoiding all of the major holidays, and then keeping our city holidays as well in those events, ensuring that we're not having active construction and making it safe as possible for those times of year when we're going to have thousands and thousands of people in the city of St. Clair.
Can I ask you a quick question? The 6th Street project, and this may affect the other streets as well. I know the residents were told they could bag their garbage and it would be picked up without using the bins for the process of this construction. That's correct, right?
I'll have double check on that.
Okay.
Councilman, I don't actually know the details specifically on where they're going to put their car. I do know that service will not be interrupted, but I don't
know that a trash truck's going to go down the street, or
they will go down the street. I just don't know where the bin needs to be or if it's by
Okay.
bag, but I can find that out.
And then just to clarify for those residents, if there's going to be compost pickup during that time as well, it would be something that I think would be appreciated for them to know.
I can follow up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Mr. Bishop? All right, Mr. Downey, what do you have there over there?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right, city departments, Annette, what do you got over there?
Yes, as the mayor mentioned, we are once again partnering with Cargill. When you walked in, you may have noticed the trees up in the foyer. We will be giving away free trees this entire week during open office hours, which are 7:30 to 4:30. So Tuesday through Friday, first come, first serve. We'd like to limit it to 2 trees per person, but just come to the front desk and ask us as the week goes on. We do want to make sure that everybody gets what they want. There's 4 different kinds of oaks available, and they're quite a nice size this year. So feel free to take some on your way out also. Happy Arbor Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other city departments? Let's go to D, authorities, boards, commissions. Anybody have any committee meetings that they want to report anything on? Okay. No unfinished business, no new business. Claims and accounts, April 10, April 16th, 2025. Anybody?
I got a question. So check number 61230 That was on Plum Coast Concrete that we approved for the 39,000.
Yes,
Now the check is 42.
yes.
And you were gonna find that out for me today why it was, did we get that answer or?
Yes, there was an additional catch basin that was needed, and it was verified that it needed to be repaired. It was repaired, and also an extra sidewalk was extended. So those two items, and they equaled about $3,000. In addition to the 39,000, bringing it up to 42.
So we can just add that to the contract that just gets added.
It's added as a change order, and it's added and then approved and paid. Yes.
Is there a limit on change orders?
Yes. Anything within gross negligence, like would be, I don't want to put a number on it, but 5, 6, 7 catch basins or something like that in this project, that would cause for concern. One catch basin is not a concern. It's less, as a total amount, it's less than a 10%.
So you would say like 10% is the most you would typically say is something that we don't need to approve a change in?
No. I mean, if it would actually extend more than like what I'm actually allowed to do, and as the scope of a project, because if you look at a change order of, say, the water treatment plant, there's been change orders for, $10,000, but on a 17 million, I mean, that's not even a percentage. But,
Right.
But on a $39,000 project, 3,000 is 10%. So it's hard to put a percentage on it. It's really about the degree in which the change is needed and the degree in which it changes the project. And in this case, there was one more catch basin.
And that project's final.
Yes, yes, it is final. And so the right-of-way permit that was pulled, I went to the building inspector today, or Mr. Boyer today, pulled it, he has signed it, and it has been signed off as final.
And he inspected it. He inspected it, so that was all handled, okay.
D did not inspect it, so Bob gave the okay for final inspection. D made the phone call, verified it, and D signed it on per Bob B.
Anything else on claims and accounts?
There are no other questions, Your Honor. Make a motion to approve as presented.
Or
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go to number 12, public comment. Anybody have anything for the good of the group? 3 minutes limits, please. Anything non-agenda?
Good evening, Phil Lundman, 902 Clinton. Mr. Bishop and I had a conversation several weeks ago regarding the bike path, and he told me it was pretty much wrapped up, and I says, well, there's still some remaining issues to be discussed. Have you gentlemen got together and decided what type of finish coating you want to put on that wall? Has that happened yet?
No.
No? Okay. You're not going to wait till fall, are you? We'd like to get that resolved if we can.
Part of the belief was by some was that we should let it go a summer and see how it looks and make sure it's going to hold up before we start throwing stuff on it.
Decorative coating or a maintenance coating, preventative maintenance, like what type of?
Sealant, colored sealant. There's been actually no formal discussion. We sat down and actually discussed ideas. Committee has not been assembled, so I have nothing to report. I have no update on.
No update,
on
okay.
finished
I can accept that. That's an answer. Hopefully we can get to work and get that resolved, and hopefully you'll accept input from the residents and rather not see a polka dot wall out there from somebody who thinks it's beautiful. The next thing,
this is a-
during the last,
Decorative question then, I guess, to answer my question? So you're looking for a decorative finish? on the wall?
no, I'm just looking what type of finish you are proposing, and maybe we can get together and say, yeah, that's beautiful, do it, whatever.
So, okay, so it sounds like you want to change the way it looks.
Well, right now you have a bare wall. Quentin identified that.
I was just asking, is this a maintenance preventative for hardness, lasting, or is it to make it look different? So it's decorative is what you're asking.
Decorative, well, he was the one that brought it up.
We'll get back on, we'll have a follow-up conversation about what that wall would actually look like, the material used, if it's a sealant, if it's a colored sealant. I actually have no update whatsoever on
Yeah.
if it's decorative, if it's fascia, if it's,
All I can say is the wall is a wall. It does not meet St. Clair city standards as far as appearance. You compare that to what you have down at Rotary Park. There's no comparison. Anyway, we'll move on. During the last walkthrough that we had with the city engineer and the contractor, I was with Mr. Kern. He said there would be handrails installed on our sidewalks down to the bike path for our 4 residences. So far, there has been no handrails installed. Please advise. Due to a hip replacement, I cannot use the steps without a handrail. And it would also be nice for our male person to use during bad weather, slippery weather, whatever. She uses my steps daily before she crosses the street. So it's just a safety thing, though. Ryan did say that they were going to put handrails on there. I've seen nothing so far. And another thing also is, I don't know if you're considering any kind of fencing. The wall varies from 27 inches to 37 inches in various places along. So I don't know if you're planning on putting any kind of restraint up there to keep the kids from walking. I'm not sure if that's even part of your agenda. The next thing is, you have a perfect opportunity to widen the curbing turn radius to allow semi-trucks with low-buy trailers access to northbound 9th Street. I know you need that to get to your water tower, but the last time it happened, which was fairly recent, I got the date, but I don't have it on my paper. Anyway, when the last time it happened, he made the turn. He was heading west, and he turned close to Silks, and he had a lowboy with a crane on it, and the crane was needed to get over to the water tower to do some work. Well, it's broke up. You're aware of it. It broke up all your new curbing you put in. That curbing's a little bit too high. I think you need to take a real close look at that. It's a perfect opportunity. You got to fix it anyway, or you most probably will, because I don't think you're going to leave it set like that. And the last thing that I have listed here, and I've been quite patient about it. When are you going to fix my or send somebody from the city to come out and take a look at my broken window when the city contractor stumped the tree in front of my house when you started the project? Date to that was 25 September of 2023. I still have a broken window and nobody has come by or called me or anything on it. I'd like to see, unless you're going to leave me holding a bag with it, then let me know so I can move.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you. I do that all the time.
All right, we'll go to number 13, mayor and council members' announcements, or anybody have anything? I got a couple things, but,
Do we
go ahead.
Do we need to take any action in regard to having these guys continue with that, with seeking the funding? Or are we good?
We did that tonight. That's my understanding.
that was what the resolution provided.
All right, so it's approved and we're good. Okay.
I'll do the fun one first. Mr. Downey's son, Jim, interned for us a while back, and he just was accepted into the Gerald Ford School of
Public policy.
Public Policy at Michigan, right? Yeah. And give me the numbers of what, you know the numbers, how many people?
It's a graduate school. He's being admitted as an undergraduate. They accept 85 undergraduate students, and he'll be taking his courses with people who have baccalaureate degrees. But they'll confer a bachelor's of public administration on him upon his conclusion of the studies.
Well, that's very impressive.
Thank you.
Make sure you congratulate him. I know he understands that just being here is what got him to go do that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I do want to mention this, and this is not the fun one. I had a couple of calls and had some people contact me Saturday and Sunday. Our golf cart ordinance is still in the workings with Mr. Downey and Annette. But I actually witnessed a couple, 2 or 3 golf carts with some very young kids driving them, and I just cringed a little bit. State law, not city, state law is 16 and you have to have a driver's license.
Yes.
Please keep that in mind out there. Anybody else? All right, Laporte, do it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good night, everybody. Be safe out there.